Top 10 tight ends of all time. Let's start the list off with number 10. Number 10 on my list is the Wizard of Oz, Ozzie Newsome. When he retired, he had more yards and receptions than any other tight end in NFL history. But what I remember, he was the first tight end that I watched that was his team's number one wide receiver. On some really good Browns teams, he was the number one option in the passing game. The truth is, even though Newsome had more yards and receptions than any other tight end in NFL history, playing with head coaches Marty Schottenheimer and Sam Rutigliano, hopefully I got that name right, two coaches that were not known for offensive creativity, the Wizard of Oz's numbers would be much higher if he didn't play for such conservative head coaches. I hate putting Newsome so low on this list because Ozzie probably has the best hands. And considering what a great job he's done with the Ravens in their front office, you could make an argument that his football knowledge is the highest of everyone on this list. However, Ozzie was not known for his blocking. He's probably the worst blocker on this list. That said, his greatness will never be forgotten, and while he is only 10th, he is one of the greatest tight ends and players in NFL history. Next at 9 is the tight end who played more games than any other tight end in NFL history. Stay tuned to see who's at number 9. My number 9 tight end of all time is Jason Witten. Jason Witten played in 271 games, most by any tight end in NFL history. Jason's 1,228 receptions and 13,046 yards are second in NFL history for tight ends. His first full season as a starter was in 2004, and from 2004 to 2010, Witten went to 7 consecutive Pro Bowls and was a first-team All-Pro in 2007 and 2010. He didn't go to a Pro Bowl in 2011, but in 2012, he had a personal best 110 receptions. Witten was known for being a team leader, and to play in the NFL for 17 years, you have to be tough. While Jason Witten is one of my all-time favorite tight ends, the reason he is only 9th is because during his career, I never considered him the best tight end in the National Football League. Every other tight end on this list was the best tight end in the league at one point in their career. I originally had Ozzie Newsome over Witten, but Witten's all-time numbers almost double Ozzie's, and there is no question Witten was the better blocker. Longevity is the key to my top 10 list, and while Witten was good, he didn't change the game at the tight end position. But Jason Witten will be in Canton when eligible and is one of my favorite players of all time. Next up at 8, we go from the player who played the most games on this list in Jason Witten to the player who played the fewest. See who that is next at number 8. The number 8 tight end of all time on my list is Kellen Winslow. January 2nd, 1982 changed my life forever when the San Diego Chargers played the Miami Dolphins in the 81 divisional round of the playoffs. Kellen Winslow had arguably the greatest postseason game in NFL history. That day, Kellen Winslow went 13 for 166 and a touchdown, but his blocked field goal late in the fourth quarter, which forced the game into overtime, might have been his biggest and most important play of the day. Kellen Winslow is the first tight end to be used as a wideout or split outside. Kellen Winslow is also part of the very first 1,000-yard receiving trio that was accomplished in 1980. To say it mildly, Kellen Winslow changed the game. Between 1980 and 1982, Winslow was unquestionably the best tight end in the National Football League. The only reason Kellen Winslow is only 8th on this list is that he played only 5 full seasons and 109 games total. If he played longer, he would be much higher on this list, but his impact on the game will never be forgotten. Next at 7 is a player, while retired, is still impacting sports and TV today. Stay tuned to see who that is next. Before I get to number 7, make sure you hit that like button, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. It shows the YouTube algorithm that you like football and you want to see more great videos like this one. Now, let's see who's at number 7. My number 7 tight end of all time is Shannon Sharpe. As a Chiefs fan, I hated Sharpe, but as a football fan, he is one of my all-time favorite players. Sharpe actually holds the NFL record for most receiving yards in a game with 214, which unfortunately he did against my Chiefs. When Sharpe retired, he held the triple crown for all-time receiving records, having the most yards, receptions, and touchdowns of any tight end in NFL history. But numbers will not describe the impact he had on the field and in the locker room. Sharpe helped Denver win back-to-back Super Bowls, and when he signed with Baltimore in 2000, he helped the Ravens win their first Super Bowl. Sharpe went to 7 consecutive Pro Bowls from 1992 to 1998, and he was a first-team All-Pro 4 times, including 3 consecutive years between 1996 and 1998. Both those years included 2 Super Bowl wins for the Denver Broncos. Sharpe's story from 7th round draft pick who struggled to make the team to all-time great is extremely impressive, and Sharpe is easily the best trash talker on this list. And despite being a Bronco the majority of his career, he is one of my all-time favorite players. Next is another former AFC West tight end at number 6. My number 6 tight end of all time didn't even play college football. Antonio Gates is number 6 on my list. Antonio Gates was undrafted out of Kent State, but after seeing what Tony Gonzalez was doing in Kansas City, a former college basketball player, the Chargers tried an experiment signing the former basketball player as a rookie. He became a starter midway through his rookie season and was first team All-Pro for 3 consecutive years and ended up going to 8 consecutive Pro Bowls. No tight end in NFL history has more touchdowns than Gates with 116, and he ranks 7th all time in receiving touchdowns. I had the hardest time deciding between Sharpe and Gates. Sharpe was the better blocker and was a large part in 3 Super Bowl wins versus 0 for Gates. As a longtime Chiefs season ticket holder, I watched both players live many times, and I give the smallest of edges to Gates. No tight end on this list was a bigger red zone threat, and Gates changed the game as other teams started drafting pure basketball players out of college in an attempt to find the next Antonio Gates. Next on my list is a tight end who is often referred to in just one syllable. Number 5 on my list is Rob Gronkowski, better known as Gronk. Gronk won 4 Super Bowls and would be number 1 on my list if he played more. Gronk consistently battled injuries and played only 2 full seasons in his entire NFL career. Despite missing games, Gronkowski was an All-Pro 4 times and went to 5 Pro Bowls. Gronkowski's best statistical season was his 2nd NFL season, one of 2 he played in all 16 games. He set an NFL record for tight ends with 17 touchdown receptions. He averaged 15 yards per catch during his NFL career, showing impressive speed with his 265-pound frame. Gronkowski was not just a downfield threat, he was an excellent blocker, and despite antics was often known as a great teammate. I cannot emphasize more that the only thing keeping Gronk from being number 1 on my list is he played in only 143 games, almost half of Witten's 271, but has 18 more receiving touchdowns than Witten. As far as being a downfield threat, again, I will say it, 15 yards per catch. That's good for a wide receiver, let alone a 265-pound tight end. As a blocker, playmaker, and downfield threat, few in NFL history are better. Ranking Gronkowski was one of the toughest things in making this list, but 5 seems fair. This is my list, but I really want to know your opinion and what you think. Next is a player known for what he did as a coach. Stay tuned to see who is number 4. Number 4 on my list is Iron Mike Ditka. He was drafted in 1960 by the Bears and became the first tight end in NFL history to have 1,000 yards receiving as a rookie, a feat only accomplished again in 2021 with 16 games instead of Ditka's 14. In Ditka's impressive rookie season, he was 4th in receiving yards in the entire league and 2nd in receiving touchdowns with 12. Ditka, however, was not known for his receiving skills in college, but instead for his dominant blocking. The nickname Iron Mike was for his toughness and punishing blocking, not for the receiving skills he possessed. Mike Ditka was either first or second team All-Pro in his first 6 seasons, and for his first 4 seasons in the league, he was top 6 in the entire league in receptions. After Ditka's 6 seasons with the Bears, Ditka played 2 seasons in Philly and was going to retire, but Tom Landry convinced Ditka to come to Dallas, and is quoted by Roger Staubach that Dallas does not win their first Super Bowl, Super Bowl 6, without Ditka. Side note, Ditka's final reception in the NFL was a touchdown in Super Bowl 6. Choosing between Gronk and Ditka was difficult because I think both players are very similar, but in completely different eras. The tiebreaker is something I hate to do, but when Ditka retired, Tom Landry hired Ditka to be the NFL's first special teams coach. And when you think of Mike Ditka, you probably think of the Super Bowl he won as coach of the Chicago Bears, not the NFL championship he helped win in 1963 for the Bears or Super Bowl 6 for the Cowboys. As much as Gronk is loved, I don't see Bill Belichick asking Gronk to coach anytime soon. Next at 3 is a tight end so good, an award is named after him. Stay tuned to see who that is next. Number 3 on my list is John Mackey. Every year in college football, the best tight end in America is given the John Mackey Award for good reason. When I first created this list, I wanted to put John Mackey number 1. Mackey's 15.8 yards per catch is the highest on this list. In fact, it's even higher than Randy Moss, whose career yards per catch average is 15.6. Mackey might be the best blocker on this list, and from 1966 and 1968, he was a first-team All-Pro, including finishing 4th in the MVP voting in 1968. That year, his teammate Earl Morrall won NFL MVP, and if you know your NFL history, the Colts won the NFL championship 34-0 over Cleveland that year. But the more famous event happened after that championship, Super Bowl 3, where the massively favored Colts lost to the Jets. John Mackey did score the only Colts touchdown, a 75-yard reception in Super Bowl 5 to help the Colts defeat the Cowboys 16-13. Mackey could be the fastest player on this list, but his blocking is what made him special. Calling John Mackey feared was an understatement. He ran players over despite having the speed to run around them. Putting Mackey at 3 was probably the most difficult thing I had to do on this list, because he might be the fastest and the best blocker and the most feared tight end in NFL history. Mackey is undisputed as one of the greatest players in the history of the game, so putting him 3rd was really difficult. Next up is a player who retired with some of the most impressive statistics in NFL history. See who that is coming up next. My number 2 tight end of all time is Tony Gonzalez. Tony Gonzalez retired with the Triple Crown as the tight end with most receptions, yards, and touchdowns in NFL history. Antonio Gates did break the touchdown record, but Gonzalez with 1,325 receptions and 15,127 yards still holds those records for tight ends in NFL history. Gonzalez is 3rd all-time for all players in receptions and 6th all-time in yardage. From 1999 to 2008, Gonzalez went to 10 consecutive Pro Bowls and was named All-Pro 5 times. In 2009, he was traded to Atlanta. He didn't make the Pro Bowl that year, but did go to the Pro Bowl his final 4 seasons in the NFL. At 36, he was named First Team All-Pro, the oldest tight end in NFL history to be named NFL All-Pro. Only Tom Brady with 15 Pro Bowls has more selections than Tony's 14. Gonzalez did end his career with a streak of 211 consecutive games with a reception. He did have a streak of 45 consecutive games with a reception, but a then 46-year-old Warren Moon in his final NFL game could not get Tony the ball. While Gonzalez never won a Super Bowl, he helped Kansas City and Atlanta get to the playoffs, and in 2012 he helped Atlanta win their first first playoff game in over a decade. His key 17-yard reception set up the game-winning field goal in a 30-28 win over Seattle in the playoffs. Gonzalez was not a great but willing blocker, and in 2005 and 2006 he helped Larry Johnson set Chiefs single-season rushing records as LJ went for 1,750 yards rushing in 05 and 1,789 in 06. Out of all the players on this list, Gonzalez has the best leaping ability, body control, and arguably hands. No tight end has more All-Pro selections or Pro Bowls than Gonzalez, and his consecutive game streak of 211 games with a reception will be safe for years to come. If you tell me Gonzalez is the greatest tight end of all time, I wouldn't call you wrong, but I still have him at number 2. Before I reveal number 1, I have to give some honorable mentions. The hardest thing about making this list is leaving off Dave Casper. The Ghost to the Post is one of the most iconic plays in NFL history, and Casper was one of the greatest players in the history of the NFL. I couldn't decide on whether to put Newsome or Casper at 10, but with the NFL now more of a passing league, Newsome changed the game where tight ends could be the primary receiver on their team. Casper was easily the better blocker, and if this list was top 11 tight ends of all time, Casper would be the 11th. Jackie Smith is mostly remembered for being the sickest man in America after dropping a sure touchdown in Super Bowl 13 versus the Steelers in his final NFL game, a game he only played in because Tom Landry talked him out of retirement. Jackie Smith should be remembered for his dominance between 1966 and 1970, those 5 consecutive Pro Bowl years, specifically 1967 when he had 56 receptions for 1,205 yards and 9 touchdowns. That's 21.5 yards per catch. Smith's career average of 16.5 yards per catch would be tops on this list. The Hall of Fame tight end didn't make my list, but should be mentioned as an all-time great player. Mark Bavaro is one of my favorite tight ends ever to play. At his best, there were few better, and even though he finished his career with 2 years in Philadelphia, he is still beloved by Giants fans to this day. If Bavaro didn't have so many injuries, he would have definitely made this list. Greg Olsen helped Cam Newton win MVP in 2015 and was a big part of Carolina reaching Super Bowl 50. Olsen is 7th all-time in tight end yardage and 6th in receptions. He had 3 consecutive Pro Bowls between 2014 and 2016. All 3 of those seasons he went for over 1,000 yards receiving. His stats will warrant Hall of Fame consideration when he becomes eligible, but just fell short of this list. Jimmy Graham had some dominant seasons with the Saints. He then forced the Saints to trade him to Seattle, where he went to the Pro Bowl twice but wasn't nearly the same dominant player. I firmly believe if he stayed with the Saints and Drew Brees, he would have made this list. However, 16 touchdowns in 2013 gets you some love, but not enough to make the list. Keith Jackson was first-team All-Pro his first 3 seasons in the league. He finished his career in Green Bay in 1996, helping the Packers win a Super Bowl. Even though he wasn't a full-time starter his last year in Green Bay, he did have 10 receiving touchdowns and was voted to the Pro Bowl. If you have to ask me who's the best athlete to play tight end, I will probably tell you Keith Jackson. He has some great moments in his 9-year career, and while my choice as best athlete to play tight end, he didn't do enough to make this list. I want to mention multiple players who are still playing today, but that could take all day. George Kittle in 2018, his first full season as an NFL starter, he set a then NFL record with 1,377 receiving yards in a season. In 2019, he helped San Francisco go to a Super Bowl and was named first-team All-Pro. Since then, he has missed 12 games in the next 3 years due to injuries, but if he can stay healthy, George Kittle will make this list. What makes an all-time great player? First off, did you help your team win? Second, did you come through in big-time games? Third, does the player have the stats to qualify for greatness? My number 1 tight end of all time can say yes to all 3 questions. The greatest tight end in NFL history is Travis Kelce. Travis Travis Kelce was drafted in 2013, but missed his entire rookie season due to injury. He did become a full-time starter early in 2014, but his first full-time season as a starter was 2015. That year he made the Pro Bowl. The next year he had his first 1,000-yard receiving season and hasn't stopped. Since Travis Kelce has had 1,000-yard receiving seasons, the Chiefs have won the AFC West. Most people consider wins a quarterback stat, but I would argue Kelce is largely responsible for this Chiefs dynasty. Kelce has been to 8 straight Pro Bowls and has been an All-Pro 4 times, but his playoff dominance is what really sets him apart. In 2019, with the Chiefs being down 24-0 to Houston in the playoffs, Kelce ends up with 3 touchdown receptions in the second quarter. That's right, 3 touchdowns in the second quarter alone. He helped Kansas City erase a 24-point deficit. Kelce ended up with 10 receptions for 134 yards and 3 touchdowns that game. Fast forward to the Super Bowl against the Niners. Down 10 with 6:13 left, Kelce catches the touchdown to get the Chiefs within 3. I would argue that his 2022 playoffs were better. It starts off with 14 receptions and 2 touchdowns versus Jacksonville. The 14 receptions is an NFL record for receptions in a playoff game. He then goes for 7 catches, 78 yards and a touchdown versus Cincinnati, and 6 catches for 81 yards and 2 touchdowns in the Super Bowl. What might be his most remembered playoff moment could be Buffalo. Down 3 with 13 seconds, Kelce catches the pass that puts the Chiefs in field goal range that forces overtime. Then he catches the game-winning touchdown in overtime. If you doubt his greatness, why not ask the Chargers? In LA last year, he scores 3 touchdowns, including the final one with 31 seconds remaining. Or 2 years ago, where he ices the game with a touchdown reception in overtime. I just proved Kelce is a winner and comes through in the clutch, but this statistic is the clincher. No tight end in NFL history has more than 3 consecutive 1,000-yard receiving seasons. Kelce is on 7. Kelce has more than doubled this all-time NFL record with the possibility of tripling it. I've been critical of Kelce as a blocker, but Andy Reid doesn't ask the greatest tight end in NFL history to block very often. If you want to argue Kelce is a product of Reid and Mahomes, that is fair, but Reid never won a Super Bowl in Philly, and Mahomes had a 13-19 record in college. Both Reid and Mahomes were never winners until they teamed up with Travis Kelce. Comment below on your opinion. What did I get wrong in this video? And if you're curious, check out my top 10 running backs of all time video. I hope to see you again very soon.